Good morning. You are listening to Money Talk with Melanie. This is your business diva, Melanie Collette. Welcome to the show. It is a beautiful 54 degrees here in Cape May County, New Jersey. Thank you so much for listening to the show. This is Money Talk with Melanie, and you are listening via the Exceptional Conservative Network and SHR Media on High Plains Talk Radio. This morning, we are privileged to have Colonel Rob Maness as our guest. I'm so happy to have him on this morning. We're going to talk about national defense and specifically the cost of national defense in the age of Trump, because one of President Trump's campaign promises, was to bring back the strength of our military. So I'm very excited about that. But first, a bit of housekeeping. If you would like to catch the show on Facebook Live, I am on Facebook right now. And that's Money Talk with Melanie, and that's on Facebook. Also, if you're there, you can enter the chat room. I can post the link, but if there's a link already there. It says chat. If you click on there, you will be in the official Exceptional Conservative Network chat room. So you might want to click on that and go into the chat room. It's actually pretty fun. Everybody in there is pretty lively. It's a lively bunch in there. So click in there. I'll be in there. It's fun. If you have any questions for Colonel Maness, I will pass them along to him. So please go in the chat room. Hang out in there. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter and like to tweet me, good, bad, ugly, or otherwise, tell me you hate my jacket that I'm wearing today, whatever. At Money Talk Mel is where you can tweet me. If you'd like to email me, moneytalkwithmelanie@gmail.com. If you missed the show and you want to listen to it later, check out my YouTube channel. Guess what the YouTube channel is? You guessed it, Money Talk with Melanie. So consistency and branding. I have been privileged to have guests like Colonel Maness this morning, Ebony Williams from Fox News, Senator Ted Harvey, Dr. Brooks Robinson from blackeconomics.org. If you would like to join this esteemed list of guests, please do go to the Exceptional Conservative Network website at theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. Click on the Contact Us link or give us a call at 202-660-1329. And you can contact us about being a guest on the show. Whew, that was a lot. Okay. Sorry about that. So what's going on in the news? Well, first of all, I want to wish our first president, George Washington, a very happy birthday, and along with wishing him a happy birthday, an apology, like sorry for what we've done to the government. I just feel like we kind of owe him an apology. I mean, am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong about that. We've. I don't think he would be very happy about the state of affairs these days. I just don't. But happy birthday, George Washington. Thank you for all the sacrifices that you've made. And, yeah, sorry. We're working on it. We're working on straightening things out, but, especially like, the Republicans, we didn't do you a solid, but we're working on making you proud. And, we hope that, having the House, having Congress and the executive office is going to do the trick. And yeah, we know we had 17 people in the primary, and we have a businessman in office, but still, we're working on it. Wish us luck. Anyway, from wherever you are, President Washington. Yes, and for those of you who did not know that's why we are celebrating, why you're off today, because it's President's Weekend and it's George Washington's birthday. That's why. Anyway, President Trump is no fan of the news media. We all know this. We all saw his presser last week. I was perusing through some economic news this morning, and I ran across an article in the Business Insider, which was lifted from another article. Kind of ticked me off, which most of the media tends to do. And it was an article about how it was from Molden Economics. It was one of those situations where Business Insider lifted an editorial from another piece of media from Molden Economics, and basically the position was that not that the press was unfair to Donald Trump, and listen, anyone who's listening to me understands I'm not a humongous Donald Trump fan, but I want him to win. I wasn't, he was my 17th choice, but he's the president now, so I want him to win, and I want him to do well, and I want to help him do that as much as possible, and I think we all should be doing that, independent, Republican, Democrat, and otherwise. But this guy is saying, Donald Trump doesn't care about stability worldwide and foreign policy. He could care less. All he cares about is shaking things up. And he's using the press. He's basically, his position is that Donald Trump is purposely manipulating the press by doing his foreign policy in public, which is, I believe, a big bunch of buffoonery. And basically, he was totally giving the press a pass. Like the press wasn't doing anything wrong. The press is completely, innocent. And the fact of the matter is that the press has been giving Donald Trump a completely hard time since day one. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt about that. And now that he won, they're completely belligerent. Absolutely no doubt about it. They're hateful and belligerent and mean. And at the risk of sounding like a school teacher, they are. They're just being mean and immature. I mean, just not, if you lose sometimes, especially when it's a contest or an election, you're supposed to be mature about it and say, okay, I lost, and move on, to like the bigger picture. But the press and the left and the liberals have completely refused, are in this complete state of denial. And the press, if you've watched, anyone who's watched the Daily Presser with Sean Spicer, it is absolutely just a battle every single day. And instead of focusing on the issues, we're focusing on, just crap. It's got to be so stressful. Excuse my French. It's got to be incredibly stressful because we're not focusing on the issues. And meanwhile, Congress is killing it, which is actually kind of fun to watch from a policy standpoint. I'm actually enjoying it. I'm watching the press, concentrating on dumb stuff with Donald Trump, and meanwhile Congress is passing bill after bill after bill, just boom, boom, boom. It's actually really amusing, but for me, and I think other Republicans that are really paying attention, you're just oh my God, look at them, they're killing it, and the press is just getting played. But that's what happens when you're immature and you're whining and you're stomping your feet and pounding your fist on the floor, having a temper tantrum and not paying attention. But that's just my not so humble opinion. And I would be remiss, being a brown person and it being Brown History Month. Did I just say that? Yeah, I did. And it being brown person's History Month, if I didn't mention that it turns out that Donald Trump is going to meet with the Brown caucus. I'm sorry, the Black caucus. Black Congressional Caucus. Yay. And here we go again. Had he not called, had that black reporter not said something to Donald Trump in the presser the other day, and Donald Trump not said what he said to the black reporter, and of course everybody said it was racist, and it wasn't racist at all. What he was saying is he was calling the Black Congressional Caucus out, basically, which was smart, because I'm absolutely sure that what he said happened. He was supposed to meet with them. They decided not to because it wasn't politically prudent for them. It's not politically prudent for any black person to be seen with Donald Trump at any time, under any circumstance. That's just, look at it. Any black person, look at what happens to any black celebrity that meets with Donald Trump. Go on their social media and see what happens. And you tell me if that's not exactly what happened. Okay? That's exactly what happened. So good for him for calling them out. That's my opinion. Anywho, we're going to go into our first commercial break, and when we come back, we will have Colonel Maness, and I can't wait to talk about the $400 billion over the next few years from 2017 to 2026 that we are going to be spending on national defense. We will be right back in a few moments.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's Bigfooted enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Josie Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, coming soon to obstacles near you. Excelsior. Hey, it's Jersey Joe, hungry for common sense. You can catch me every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on shrmedia.com. That's every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, shrmedia.com.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. Package Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead John and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on integration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best late-night conservative talk, Package Radio. The best late-night conservative talk show in America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
From the war front to the streets of our nation's capital, men of faith, Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, and Kenneth McClinton, the exceptional conservative, bring both constitutional gravitas and spiritual perspective on today's issues to the most influential Christian urban talk show, 9:05 p.m. Eastern, Thursdays. It's a new day on New Day, Black and Red.
Good morning, everyone. We are back. You are listening to Money Talk with Melanie. This is your business diva, Melanie Collette, and I am happy to have the one and only Colonel Rob Maness with us this morning. Mr. Maness, Colonel Maness, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
I am fantastic. I'm so happy to have you on this morning. You are the perfect person to have this discussion with this morning because you are a fantastic combination of a budget hawk and a military person. And I am absolutely under describing your qualifications. If you would, can you please share with our audience what your qualifications are to have this discussion? Because I'm really doing a disservice to your background and your qualifications to have this discussion. But you could probably do a much better job.
Well, I served in the United States Air Force for about 32 and a half years, from the age of 17, and rose up from the lowest enlisted rank to retire as a full colonel. Along the way, I was fortunate enough and privileged to command a B-1 bomber squadron, command an Air Force Air Base wing out in Kirtland Air Force Base, New Mexico. I was also fortunate enough to be a deputy director, to lead teams that did things like build the what's called the POM in the military, which is for a major command in the Air Force. Was over a $7.5 billion budget that we shepherded through the approval process up to Congress. And was also privileged to work for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the President and Secretary of Defense as a staff officer in nuclear operations on the Joint Staff in the Pentagon, and was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to help identify who the enemy is in our current war. I was at the Pentagon on 9/11 and survived it with no injuries, thank goodness.
Wow.
And was asked to help plan the response effort, and just did my part as a young officer in that, and then went back to command and take my squadron to fight the war. And we continued to do that all the way until I retired in 2011. So I have a little bit of experience with terrorists. I started my career as a bomb disposal technician, and explosive ordnance disposal is what it's called in the military, EOD.
Wow.
So I've been fighting terrorism since I was about 17 years old, and actually saw terrorism firsthand in North Africa and Morocco twice when my dad was stationed there, and we were living there during the late 60s, early 70s, when Islamists tried to assassinate the monarch, King Hassan, in Morocco in those years. So got a little bit of experience with them, and a bit of experience with the budgeting process, and I know where some skeletons and bodies are buried, let's put it that way.
Literally and figuratively. It sounds like that is amazing. Thank you so much for your service.
Well, thank you. It was a privilege to get the opportunity to serve as long as I did, and to have the opportunities that my country and the Air Force gave me.
That is incredible. So you like a little bit of excitement in your life. I mean, for someone to be in the same room with a bomb, let alone, disarm them. I just, wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna date myself here. In those days, the American bomb disposal, we didn't use robots like the sharp folks do today that are out there fighting the war against terrorism every day. So it was quite an interesting and exciting experience. Fortunately, I was very, very young, so still bulletproof, so to speak.
Oh yeah,
as they say.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it'll be all right. No problem. Oh my, that is amazing. Really, that is absolutely. So do you guys tease the robot crew now? You're like, oh really, robots? Robots, you guys are so lame.
Yeah. That's right.
That's amazing. That is absolutely incredible. So that's just fantastic. I just admire people like, we need people like you to do what you do, and I just find that to be incredible. That you just have to have so much heart and confidence, and probably like just a dash of crazy. Right, to be willing.
Well, said that. I mean, there are young men and women that are volunteering every day to do that job, and are doing it, and losing their lives, being injured, and we may give them a little bit of grief, but there young people in this generation that have stepped up to fight for what we believe in America.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think probably what I call a dash of crazy is probably a dash of bravery. Is I can't relate to. You know, I don't know. It's just it's just incredible. It's just incredible to me that there are people in this world who do that. That there are people who are walking this earth that do what you do, and like you said, what there are many others who do on our behalf. Which, you know,
absolutely, amazing people.
Yeah, which is absolutely amazing. So, we're talking about the budget process, and I think many people don't realize that there are military people who do have budget experience, who are involved in the budget process. And I was focused on a January 27th memorandum that President Trump released specifically regarding building up the military, because our armed forces under President Obama were very specifically reduced, purposely reduced. I think President Obama had a very specific agenda to reduce our presence in the world, our military presence in the world, and our world dominance, if you will. And he made a very specific point in being proactive in making sure that happened. And President Trump has a very different philosophy. And so the January 27th memorandum on rebuilding the armed forces focused on readiness, focused on making sure that we develop proper levels, making sure that we develop the budget for this, which is a 2018 budget. Within 60 days of the order, he wants a plan of action, and obviously he wants a plan of action for rebuilding the armed forces. He wants a nuclear posture review, which is also very good. A new ballistic missile defense review. But all of this is going to require money. Now, the Congressional Budget Office estimates, and I went and took a look at this last night, estimates that for the U.S. nuclear forces, it's going to cost about $400 billion over 2017 to 2026. And there's also, most recently, an Intelligence Authorization Act for fiscal year 2017 that was passed. Now, what's interesting about that bill is that the CBO doesn't do estimates for classified programs. So they'll only, and I'm sure you already know this, but this is for the edification of the audience, they'll only do estimates for the non-classified areas. so the part that they were able to do estimates for, they estimated $454 million over the 2017 to 2022 period. And one of my first questions for you is, although we have both houses and the executive office, at least for the next 2 years, it's guaranteed. What are your initial thoughts on the chances of this actually happening? I mean, I know that these are essentially goals. When we look at a memorandum and a proposed budget, these are essentially goals, but the possibility of this actually coming to fruition, and you having been there and seen this happen, what do you think the actual possibilities are?
Well, obviously, we don't consider the military budget or national security budget in isolation. And the good news is that a confirmation occurred within the last 72 hours for a gentleman named Mick Mulvaney.
Yes.
He's a congressman, but he's also the president's new budget director. And he's very conservative fiscally. He's on the right track. He's been attacked by John McCain. which is not a bad sign.
Right.
But what he will be able to do is to orchestrate the budget and look across the budget, and he does have the courage and the spine and the support of the president to look at places to cut that have probably never been considered before. So that's the first thing. The second, and that includes the military budget. I include that in that because I'm one of those rare national security career folks that believes that we have the wherewithal to have the best military in the world, without having to outspend every nation. And we do still have the best military in the world, but our nuclear forces have not been reinvested in and maintained properly. Our conventional forces are being used to fight a war in a state of readiness that is below combat ready. Look, I was a commander of a combat unit 3 times. I held 3 command positions that are selected, handpicked by the Air Force. And we handpick those folks because those folks have to make life and death decisions every single moment of every day. And they have to understand their resources. And I'm telling you, there are places that we can find to cut things that don't affect readiness. But what Barack Obama did was cut things that directly affected readiness. And when I was reporting my monthly readiness status to the President of the United States, if I had an Air Force unit under me that was 85% manned, that was supposed to be a combat unit, it was not ready, period. And the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, the last one this past summer, said that the entire Air Force is below 85% manning levels. And we're fighting a war with that Air Force. Think about that. That's the state of readiness we're in.
Wow.
And then on top of that, we've got to get our force levels back up. And you mentioned the military intelligence budget and the classified budget. Now, there's the classified, what's called the black budget, and then there's the military intelligence budget. Neither one of those are known specifically. And you mentioned that they're not scored by the CBO. There are areas, and I guarantee you, that can and should be cut. And then the third thing that we need to do, that Mulvaney's presence will help us do, is reform the defense acquisition system. The term crony capitalism was created because of the defense industrial complex and its ability to suck dollars off of the American taxpayer for not very good reasons sometimes.
Wow. I'm trying to take in, and I'm sure my audience is doing the same, all that you just said. I can't. One of my audience members just posted in the chat, "Yay for black budget discussion," because really nobody would ever know that had you not just said it. I'm taking in the fact that you said that Barack Obama, that you just said that you would give your report and these were readiness dollars, these were readiness issues, and you weren't ready. And what kind of response would you get when you would report that we were not ready? What would happen? When you would report that?
In my day, before I retired in 2011, the response, the normal response was, tell us what resources you need. And you usually did that with your readiness reporting up the chain of command. You always put in there, here's what we need to become combat ready. The challenge was just the silence that started coming back with, well, that's where you're at, and there was no comment on it. It was just silence. And from what I'm hearing from my folks that are still in today, and remember, I'm old now. I've been out for 5 years. So my young officers are now in command of large organizations that are in combat, many of them. And what I'm hearing is that we're now being laughed at like we used to laugh at the Soviet Air Force back in the Cold War when they didn't get the training they needed to stay ready, even though their politicians said they were the greatest Air Force in the world. That's the status that our aviators that you're not hearing from because you won't hear from them. That's the status of your military aviation in the world today, and that's just not in the Air Force. That's across the board, and you get hints of it when you see Marines having to pull parts off of museum pieces and resources to the absolute limit because of that. And that's a terrible thing to do to the United States and to our allies and to our young men and women that are out there serving. But that's where we're at right now, from what I'm hearing.
So, and I've heard it too. I mean, that's definitely been in the media. I mean, it hasn't been, very loud in the media, mostly in conservative media and Christian media. They've been talking about it, but the mainstream media, if it is mentioned, it's only been mentioned as a little bit of a blurb, but not, no one's been screaming from the mountaintops about it. You know what I mean? No,
Right.
And they should be, because lives are at stake. And as we were talking about from the outset this morning, was these people are amazing people who are putting their lives on the line, and why should they not have the best? Why should they not have the absolute best? And then, when we talk about the other things that we spend our money on as a country, like, don't get me started. And I'm sure that you have a list of your own, because you've been on the inside, and seeing things that we spend our money on. Like, we can't afford to make sure that we're combat ready. And
exactly. The readiness accounts are not the long-term, very expensive, research and development dollars that go to the big corporations that develop military capability in the United States. They're the everyday meat and potatoes dollars that go to clothe, equip, train, house, take care of families. I mean, that's what's being starved out. I mean, I talked to a young man that just made full colonel in the promotion in the Air Force 2 days ago, and two of his peers are turning the promotion down, which is a significant resource investment for their retirement later on.
Right.
It's a very significant one to go to a full colonel like I did, and then be able to retire after you've served the appropriate amount of time in that rank and served honorably. That is a significant step to take for somebody in that position. And he told me about two, and that's a large number in a very small pool of people. There are only about 4,000 colonels in the U.S. Air Force at any given time.
Oh, wow.
So that's a very significant step for people to take to turn down a promotion like that. And that just tells you a little bit about the state of mind of folks, that they feel betrayed. They love their jobs. They'll go out and do it over and over again. I mean, the people that I've worked with that are out there leading and commanding and fighting the enemy today love their jobs and love their country as much as ever. But when their families are not being feeling like they're being taken care of, and they feel like their sacrifice is being wasted, then it's tough for them to stay when they get the opportunity to leave.
Wow. Of course it is. How could it not be?
Yeah.
How could it not be? That's amazing to me. That is amazing to me. How do you feel like the Congress, and actually we're probably going to have to address this when we get back, because we're up against a break, but I'm going to pose the question to you, and we can talk about it in more detail when we come back. But I want to know, especially since you touched on a little bit about John McCain. Do you think that the all Republican Congress is going to support the budgetary, what we need to do with the budget in our military? And that's what I would like you to address in more detail when we come back, whether or not we're going to have all of the support that we need from the Congress. Of course, we have Speaker Ryan, who is, our budgetary guru, if you will. And we're not real big spenders, and we're up against a lot. So, who knows? But I'd like you to address that when we come back in a few minutes.
From the war front to the streets of our nation's capital, Men of Faith, Dr. Michael Jones, the Underground Professor, and Kenneth McClinton, the exceptional conservative, bring both constitutional gravitas and spiritual perspective on today's issues to the most influential Christian urban talk show, 9:05 p.m. Eastern, Thursdays. It's a new day on New Day, Black and Red. Power brokers use corrupt politicians, deceptive Islam, and lies from establishment media to turn the once shining city on a hill into the city of the blind. What do the elites fear? One man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me at SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Spreaker, iTunes, and YouTube for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hello, I'm Donovan Larkins, pastor of Spirit of Life Christian Center in Dayton, Ohio. But I'm also the director of Shekinah Ranch and the Shekinah Ranch Protecting Innocence campaign. And today I want to just share with you some of our materials that we've developed so that you too can be part of promoting prevention, education, and safety awareness to youth. We have now our Protecting Innocence t-shirt. It's a powerful marquee or billboard that you can purchase and wear yourself that brings awareness that children need advocacy. It's a powerful, powerful piece. It's simply a picture of that with this marquee here with some additional wording on it. And you will want to be a part of that. We have posters that any of you pastors or any of you community centers, you may want to obtain some of these posters and post in the recreation center. It would be great to post this in the foyer of your church. It would be awesome for you to post this throughout the schools of your community. Involvement is what's necessary. Involvement is what makes the difference. We know that in order for evil to triumph, all that is necessary is for good men and women to do nothing. And then we have these little marquees. You can order 100 of them, you can order 50 of them, and you can pass them around to your family. You can pass them around at a family event or a local event that you're going to be at a festival or something. These are very handy, they're very cost efficient, and they make a powerful statement. They really make an impact. And then we have our Protecting Innocence ribbon. And in this package, it's not only just the ribbon, but it also has a message, a safety awareness message, actually a tip. And the tip encourages parents to exercise scrutiny with the relationships that your children are involved with. Today, we see more and more children being victimized by teachers, by coaches, and by other people, other supposedly trusted individuals. And we have to prepare our children if we plan for them to be safe. And then you will want to be involved with the overall Protecting Innocence campaign, because we're making plans right now to build a retreat recovery center on our 150-acre campus where Shekinah Ranch is housed. And you can get this brochure. We can email it to you. That way there's no cost associated with it, so that you can learn how you can join our Protecting Innocence teams. We are communicating with people globally, all over the world, that are interested in how together we can protect children from dirty, evil child molesters. We love to have you on board. We need your support. We want your prayers, and we welcome your financial contributions. Again, I'm Donovan Larkins, Chicana Ranch Protecting Innocence campaign. And by the way, camps are coming. So call us so that you can register your child at 937-422-6029. We'll see you later.
Okay, we are back. You are listening to Money Talk with Melanie. This is Melanie Collette, your business diva. We are talking to Colonel Rob Maness about the budget for defending our country, the national defense budget under President Donald Trump. Before we get to the question I asked you before the break, we had a question from the chat, and one of my listeners asked if the black budget was truly separate, or was it something additional? Was like that's something that was truly separated?
It's difficult to describe. It is not detailed out by line item, but there is a known total dollar amount.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And because it's a black budget, it's one of those things, right?
It is. I mean, well, you have to have the clearance and the need to know to have access to that, and very few people do have access to it, and there's good reason for it. But that doesn't mean that everything that's in there is something the country needs to be spending their dollars on, and Congress needs to have oversight of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The same thing with the military intelligence budget.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. That makes an awful lot of sense. And so now I would imagine that Speaker Ryan would have access to that information. Somebody like him, since he does the budgeting, would know what that number is and what's entailed in that spending. I would think. I would hope.
I would agree
that he would have that information. So do you think that Congress is going to give a whole lot of pushback as far as all that President Trump wants to do with the budget, as far as restoring our military to being not only combat ready, but just dominating like we're supposed to?
Well, I suspect that I mentioned Senator McCain earlier, that his opposition to Mick Mulvaney is the beginning of that debate. Now, I'm not saying that Mr. McCain will fight against making our military stronger. I don't think he will do that, but I do believe that all of Congress has a very tough challenge, and the challenge is, how do I take money out of my crony, corporations that do this spending and want this money for their research and development and developing combat systems and those kind of things? How do I reduce that and reorient it towards combat readiness, where we really should be putting our money right now? Because we've devastated our military. You mentioned it earlier. President Obama, with a complicit Congress, passed that sequester, and it devastated the readiness accounts of the United States Armed Forces. That's exactly what it did. The leadership of the Armed Forces told them it would do that, and the Republicans that agreed to the sequester numbers didn't believe that Barack Obama would sign off on it.
Yep.
But that's the situation we're in, and that's why John Boehner's gone, and that's what will cost the rest of these folks their jobs if they don't get their spine up and take care of business. But to do that, they've got to reform that defense acquisition system, which is like a deep, dark, bottomless pit that American taxpayers' dollars get sucked into. That's got a black hole at the bottom of that bottomless pit, and it's just got a gravity pull that constantly pulls it. The only people that can change that is Congress.
You're absolutely right. You nailed it. And I think a lot of us, and actually, to be completely honest, I forgot about the sequester. I think a lot of us forgot about the sequester. It was a big deal when it first went down, because it was a big deal. It was a huge...
And similar to what we're being told about Obamacare, the Obamacare bill that was passed, just to give you a little bit of idea, of what happened, you can relate it to what they're saying about Obamacare. You know, the big budget that Rand Paul fought against not too long ago, and only 14 Republicans voted against it. It kept all the Obamacare taxes, and they were told, all the Republicans were told, it's just numbers. It's all going to get gutted out when we do the repeal and replace part of it, and those kind of things. Well, that's what was said about the sequester. It's too hard on defense. The president will never sign it.
Yep.
It cuts their readiness accounts. We're in the middle of a war. He would never do that. He's the commander in chief. He cares about the country. And guess what? He did, and they got a lot of Republicans that were really fiscal conservatives to vote for that because it was a fiscally conservative bill. But they got them to vote for that based on a lie, just like they're trying to do with Obamacare, and just like they'll try to do with other things. And that's the problem with Congress is they're not honest with the American people. That's why their approval rating is below that of cockroaches, I think.
Yep.
And I think the only people that are disapproved more than them are the mainstream media. The very fake news, as President Trump tries to refer to.
Fantastic.
And they've earned it. So I hope that Mr. Mulvaney's leadership, the president's leadership, Mr. Ryan is an expert in the budget.
Yes.
But the danger with that is he's also an expert in the smoke and mirrors and sleight of hand. He's been there a long, long time. And we just can't have any more of that. You know, we've done that over and over again. Look at the mess we're in.
And
we need some real cuts. I would like to see them go to a zero-based budgeting concept. So we're not cutting the growth in the budget. We're cutting for real every year.
Can I give you a round of applause on that? Yes. I'm sorry.
I'd like to see the military incentivized to give dollars back to the Treasury at the end of every fiscal year instead of like it is now where they're told to spend as much as you can coming up to October 1st so your budget doesn't get cut. You know, I mean that's crazy, but that's the way we've been for years and years and years now. And I know that's unusual for a senior military officer, somebody at my level, but that's why it's unusual for somebody like me to run for the U.S. Senate and why it's so hard to get elected is because we know where the skeletons and the bodies are buried, and we want to have the best military in the world, but we can't sacrifice our entire nation, our nation's economy and health to do that, and we certainly can't do it on the backs of our military men and women and their families, which is what's been happening.
Absolutely not. If only we did public budgeting the same way we did private budgeting, and we don't. That's the problem. You know, like you said, we don't do the zero budgeting like we do in our households. You know, if we did it that way, we'd be a lot better off. But we don't. We do deficit. We budget. They do public budgeting with a deficit in mind, which is I've always found to be insane. Like, who does that? I don't get that.
Yeah. And thank God we now have a president that has more leadership in his pinky finger than the last president had in his entire being. And he's going to have to lead this Congress. I mean, this Congress is led by the same people that have been leading it for years now. So it's going to take leadership. It's going to take negotiation. I think he's going to find that it's going to take all of his skill sets that he has become one of the most successful of Americans in the 20th and 21st century using to get the job done. But I'm confident that we will see a better outcome than we've ever seen before. Absolutely.
And I will say that is, while I was not a huge fan during the primary, that is one of the things about President Trump that makes me hopeful. I am a huge private sector versus public sector fan. I think that, you know, the private sector just gets things done so much more efficiently than the government does. I think right now there's a learning curve going on, and of course the mainstream media is just probably making things look much worse than they are. And so, I'm cautiously optimistic that things are going to work out. And once Donald Trump and the people around him get a handle on that part, I think we're going to be cooking with gas, and it's going to be okay. I cannot thank you enough for being on the show this morning. Fantastic information. I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure my audience has learned a lot as well. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, Colonel, how can we do so?
You can do it in two ways. I'm the chairman of a super PAC called Gator PAC. Its mission is to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C. That's where, and we were glad to lend our mission to Donald Trump's slogan of drain the swamp in his presidential campaign. We thank him for making it even more famous.
All right.
And you can find us at gatorpac.com. And you can find me, and please sign up for our mailing list. And if you can help with a donation at Gator PAC, that'd be great. And you can find me at robmaness.com. You can also find my new news channel there, Iron Liberty News, at the blog at the robmaness.com. And you can find us on Apple News, Iron Liberty News, to see any blogs that I've supported or that I've published on my own.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. I hope you'll come back on the show again, because over the next 4 years, I'm sure we will have much to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much, Michelle, for having me on, and I look forward to the next policy discussion. It's not often we have the time to talk about policy and specifics. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
What a great conversation that we just had with
Call ended.
What a great conversation we just had with Colonel Maness. Thank you so much for listening. I want to thank everyone in the chat. On Wednesday, we will be broadcasting from CPAC. Very excited about that. The guest that we have scheduled is Greg from millennialmoney.com. Going to talk to millennials about the best tips for millennials and their money. It should be a great conversation. May have a couple of surprise guests from CPAC. Very excited about that. The Exceptional Conservative Network hosts will be broadcasting from there. It should be a lot of fun. Going to be probably doing a couple promo videos, so look out for that. Remember, all of this is very important because it is your money.